be great. If we don't like it, we won't answer.
Well, here's the thing. We've been moving along very happily as the Anglican Alliance, kind of hanging out together, doing some ministry here and there, but now we're about to become a diocese. What's going to be different? What do you see as being the difference in shifting from alliance to diocese? And what do you see as being the two things that we need to get focused on and we need to tackle first as a diocese?
The question is, we're moving along as an alliance, and we're moving into a new way of being together as a diocese. What are the two things that would be the most important things to focus on and change? I think the overall change that's going to happen that I see is that we'll become somewhat more formal in our relationships and our structure. Up until now, it's been kind of a whoever wants to be in the room sort of thing. We've begun that process of shifting and changing really over the last year and a half or so. The steering committee actually started as literally a band of brothers who gathered together in Suwannee to say, the ship's sinking, what do we do? And from there, the alliance was formed stuff. And so it really started as a highly relational support group for those that were struggling in the church or were ready to leave the Episcopal Church. What's begun to happen is we've begun to become more organized. The relationships have become a little more formalized. I think that process with canons and constitution would obviously be even more formal. I think that the two key things for me that we need to focus on as we move forward, one is the whole missional part. That it seems to me that the piece that was missing in a lot of the diocese and the Episcopal Church in our own diocese, and we were one of the better ones for a long time. But the Diocese of Florida, and we set the lofty goal of planting one new church every 5 years. And we thought that was just amazing of us. And how awesome that was. When you think about putting all of the resources of 75 congregations together, and we can only plant one church every 5 years. Paul planted dozens of churches in a matter of a couple of months. That there was something there was a low bar that we didn't even reach. So somehow we need to get the missional thing figured out. We need to figure out how to plant churches that are healthy and growing. And we need to look, I think, beyond our experience because we suck at it. So we need to figure that out. So that's a major thing that we need to do. I think the other thing we need to do is really focus on clergy effectiveness and health. For a long time, we priests have gotten away, particularly priests have gotten away with shooting the arrow, painting the target. And so we do a lot of activity, and then we just paint targets around them and say, look at all that accomplished. Well, that's a ridiculous way to do our life. We need to figure out where we're going, how do we get there, and measure progress, not activity. So we need to figure out what that looks like for clergy, we need to figure out what that looks like for congregations. So I think those would be two major things that we need to focus on.
We've been in sort of survival mode. How to get out of kind of left our previous facilities. How are we going to keep going? How are we going to keep ministry going together? And I think the biggest shift as we go into dioceses is that we are basically closing the book on that earlier stage. We're out of survival mode, but we made it this far, and the Lord has provided us this far, and now we can begin to look in the same mission. There's nothing wrong with survival mode. I mean, it's your top priority. I'll tell you, put your mask on first, and then, take care of the one next to you. If you don't survive, you're not going to help them. And in a sense, that's where we've been. But I think part of what we're growing up to become is a group of people who realize we have to move beyond that stage. And so I think, in a sense, becoming a diocese gets us to that place. I think the other thing is that, in addition, I agree with Jim, the primary issue of mission and including health, this would be my top two as well. But I also think we've been sort of like uninsured motorists. We didn't have canons, we didn't have structure, we didn't have a safety net to operate with. And I've never been an uninsured motorist, I've been hit by a couple. And my suspicion may not be true, but my guess is if I were an uninsured motorist, I would not go very far. You know, I'd only go where I had to go. Because what happens if something went wrong? Or got caught or something like that. By building in structure like canons, we are now in an insured situation. So we have some way of dealing with problems that come up in a structured way so that we can risk a little bit more. We know what happens if there's a need for clergy discipline. We'll work on some of the canons, so we have a general sense of somebody who deal with it now. Or if there were a congregation in any kind of trouble. If we're starting ministries up, we begin to have a way together that we agree, now we can take care of something. And we just haven't, so in a sense, structure actually gives you the freedom to risk that we have. So that'd be my take on it. All right, other questions?